Good morning. My name is Tim Couper. I'm the Technical Director here at Britannic. And welcome to Silverstone. Welcome to the home of British motorsports. If you're here for the technology, there's lots of technology here for you to see today. If you're here for the cars, you're in the right place. It's a win-win situation. The theme of the day is Agile Communications. Agile, which basically means able to move quickly, able to move easily, briskly, quick. These are not terms you would associate with the telephone that's on your desk in your office. And so what I'd like to do at the beginning of the day is take the opportunity for us to step back, look at where we've come from, look at the journey that we as businesses have taken over the last few years. We're going to look at what's so special about today. We're going to look at what's different today. And then we're going to be brave. We're going to look a bit forward. We're going to tell you where we think the technology is going, where communication is going in the future, certainly where we're investing our efforts from a development perspective. So we have to start somewhere. Let's start 20 years ago. You'll notice that 20 years ago, there were two different systems. You had an IT system, a network, if you were lucky. You also had a telephone system. Two sets of cabling, two sets of sockets on your wall, two sets of maintenance contracts. If you had lots of sites, you would take what's here and you would multiply it by the number of sites you had. The intelligence for systems in the beginning was all defined in a central place, the PBX. That was the point at which your intelligence, your comm strategy lived and died by the success of that box. Let's move on 5 years. The internet, email was on the rise hugely in those days. But the requirement in the telecoms industry was very much to say, I have my PC, I have my phones. What I'd like to do is connect the two together. I'd like to be able to screen pop. I'd like to be able to make an outbound dial from my PC. There's also the birth of CTI servers. IVRs, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Voicemail servers, this all happened in 15 years ago. And Britannic were indeed putting solutions in 15 years ago that did this. But the point was, the intelligence was split between two devices here. It was no longer associated with the one PBX. So let's move on 5 years. 10 years ago. Well, there's this funny project going on in VMware, who was around 10 years ago. Zen was about to start. The idea where you could take your servers on your network and virtualize them into your single set of servers, increase the agility, increase the management aspects of it. There was nothing to do with telecoms. We wouldn't dare dream of it 10 years ago. But certainly in businesses, we were beginning to experiment with this. What was happening in telephony those days, we were saying, we want to connect our handsets to the same network that my PCs are connected to. I don't want to maintain two sets of cabling for all my users. And so we had the early days of voice over IP. This gave rise to being able to work from home. Many of us have been through this story. 10 years ago, you could work from home. Plug your PC into your home network and connect it to the telephone network in your office. But you had lots of intelligent devices for your telecoms in its day. All of these phones had IP addresses. They need to know the time. They need to know how to find your PBX. So we had to introduce a dependency on services but running on your networks. DHCP, DNS, Network Time Protocol. 10 years ago, your networks were involved in delivering requirements into your telecoms industry, into your telecom system. So what's been happening in the last 5 years? Well, lots has. We've begun to gain the trust in virtualization. Many of us have moved in and are running our businesses on VMware and Zen. From a telecoms perspective, many people have started to dip their toe in the water, put the CTI servers inside VMware. There's been a rise of SIP trunking. Our traditional ISDN circuits, let's replace them with connectivity across the internet and make ourselves very agile. And the manufacturers have also responded by providing mobile integration. Pieces of software that runs, you've got the Avaya 1X, you've got Mitel's UC clients, software that runs on your mobile phone so you can connect to your PBX from anywhere. You can even take any phone in the world and log into that phone and leverage your PBX from it. Whether in a hotel, in your granny's house, the idea is you can take any phone you like and connect it in to your PBX. Things like the telecommuting mode and remote hot desking from Mitel. But you have even more intelligence, even more devices across your network, which you're having to coordinate and use to distribute your telecoms. So it brings us today. What's changed? Well, lots of changes have happened, but the main one, and you're going to see lots of things today which we will highlight this story, but the main one is that we have the ability to take our PBX, which was a big fridge-looking device in the corner of our offices 20 years ago, and we can still host it wherever we like. We can host it on our industry-standard hardware. We can stick it inside our virtual machines. We can put it in our data centers. We can put it even in and subscribe to systems from providers like Britannic. We can even run a hybrid where we can take various combinations of these systems and integrate them so that you have resilience across multiple sites. So the system now, the technology today is truly agile. You can take any combination and any service and make them work together. It's true to say that the paths of IT and of telecoms have truly merged. Over the last 20 years, they've been coming closer and closer and closer, and have truly merged. There are two facts that underpin this. Wide area networking and the internet are ready to host your voice. They have been for a while, but let's just look at some stats from YouTube. If you wanted to look at the videos that are uploaded to YouTube in a single day, it would take you 8 years of your life. 3 billion videos are viewed on YouTube across the internet, often in HD. So of course, the internet is able to carry voice, much less demanding. Virtualization today is ready for voice. It's not cutting edge, it's not experimental. Virtualization has been live in our businesses for 10 years. It's been maturing, it's been growing, and now it's ready to carry our voice infrastructures. So the first time ever, our telephone systems and computing are totally merged. They have the same hardware, the same operating systems, they have the same architecture, the same APIs. Which means you can think of your telephone system in the same way as you can think about any of your IT systems. Why maintain two sets of disaster recovery? If you have a power cut in your office, you would not expect your website to go down. The technology has moved on so far now that it's easy to ensure that your website stays up when you have a power cut. It's the same for your telephone system. If you can't get your staff into the office because it's snowed, it is easy from a technical point of view to ensure that your business is still taking and receiving calls even when your staff can't get into the office. It means, though, that your wide area networking and your internet provisioning is now truly linked to your telephone strategy. It's a common infrastructure. You need to be asking questions from your provider. If I'm going to connect my PBX to the internet, how can I do it securely? What is the provider, how's the network provisioning going to support my plans for a business? The way Britannic do this is that we have built a carrier-grade platform for delivering services. It's taken us 5 years of development to build this, and of course it's fully meshed, it's resilient across multiple data centers. We have a high focus on security. We have done from day one. Built from the ground up, we've delivered our services, and it's designed for voice, it's designed for video, it's designed for real-time services. This is not a bolt-on to an existing infrastructure. We've built this from the ground up to deliver these services. And our approach is to say, actually, there's a fantastic heritage in telecoms. Let's not throw the best away. Why don't we provide these new services to you in such a way that you can leverage what you have and also take the best of what's going forward? This comes in two ways. You can, for example, host any part of your infrastructure, be it the PBX, the voicemail server, the CTI, any part of that, you can host it inside the service platform, make it accessible to all your sites. Similarly, you can take any part of our service platform, some of the fantastic technologies you're going to see today, and host it either on your premise, in your data center, in your private cloud. All of this is managed 24/7 by our NOC. Fantastic team within Guildford. So I'm not going to talk about all of our services, but I will pinpoint 3 of them. Our SIP trunking platform. NetX. Many people are doing SIP trunking nowadays, but nobody is doing SIP trunking in the way that we do, because we've built our platform, we've coded our platform from the ground up in order to allow us to have control and allow you to provide agility when it comes to how you run your businesses. We can, for example, aggregate lots of your sites into a common point in your data center. We have a customer who did this recently, where they had 1,200 channels across their estate. That's 1,200 lines they were paying for every day, every month. And by aggregating them into a central point and dynamically associating those trunks with sites, they were able to reduce that load to about 400. That's a huge cost saving. And that's before we've even talked about call charges. It's a disaster recovery platform. It's completely dynamic. You can move your sites, your numbers around any way you like. You can have advanced plans defined so that if you should have a failure or a power failure on one site, you can move all your comms over dynamically, instantaneously over to another plan. We have a CTI platform running from our cloud services. This is leveraging the 20 years of CTI that we have. It supports not only Mitel and Avaya, but it supports 30 plus different phone system types. So if you have an estate that you've inherited, where you have lots and lots of different phone system types, you can still deliver consistent services across your estate by using services like NetConnect. If you want to be able to integrate it with Salesforce or any software as a service or on-premise software, the chances are it will work out the box. We support most business applications. It's a rapid development environment, and it's developer-centric, so that we can enable you and your developers, your website developers, for example, to bring in telephony quickly. We have, you'll hear from Nigel from Ipanema later on, we have a WAN area networking governance solution. You can take a single WAN, make it resilient, and ensure that you're guaranteeing all your applications across that WAN in a way that's going to be driving value for your business. So let's look at how we connect. Well, our approach is very simple. There are some fantastic services available today. You're going to hear lots of details about them. But you should be able to connect to them over any form of connection. DSL, Ethernet, VPLS if you have an Ethernet network. If you have a traditional network, or you have an MPLS network or an IPVPN network, you can connect in. We can connect over the internet, or we can connect into your data centers. The same services are available across any form of connection. Our connections are obviously delivered over tier 1 providers, but what we allow you to do is choose the most appropriate connection for each site in your estate. So what we don't do is say, well, the average of your sites are Ethernet, therefore we have to impose a requirement on your smaller sites. We can say, well, take the most appropriate technology for each site. Let's make them resilient against each other. Our services are not bound to the circuits. So a lot of network providers, what they do is they say, you can have our SIP and you can have our video services, but you have to take the premium network product in order to access that. We say, no, this is IP. You should be able to access those same services over multiple routes. So that if you have a problem with a site, you can access those same telephone numbers, you can still access your CTI services without having to fail over manually. Our services, you can have lots of concurrent services at one time, so you can have the internet and phone calls going on, and it's truly managed from the core for you. And we also provide access to be able to fail over to the same services, even across the internet. It's too easy today to ensure that you have resilience and to ensure you have failover plans. If you take circuits from different networks, of course they are bridged. They are bridged. We ensure that you can take a range of different providers, a range of different products, and they will be delivered to you in a consistent network. So today, the technology exists today to allow you to pick and mix your topology. Do you want all your services running in the cloud? The big buzzword of the day. Do you want to run it in your own data center, in your own private cloud? Perhaps you still want to maintain and host your services yourself in your network. No problem. Or you can take a hybrid. You can take your various parts of your infrastructure and move them around. Perhaps you don't want to host your own disaster recovery. That's fine. It can be mixed. You can leverage the same investment that you've made in your IT infrastructure today. So if you've purchased SANs, if you purchased servers for running VMware, use it. Let's sweat the asset. You can put your communications inside there. Your disaster recovery can be very sophisticated today. In the olden days, you would have a big condition. If my ISDN fails into my building, we've got no phones. Therefore, all your staff have got a problem. Whereas now what happens is you can say, well, if someone drills through my connection, or I have a problem with a link, actually I'll just route the traffic via another mechanism, and my staff will not even know there's an issue. Today, the technology exists to allow you to run multiple real-time services across your WAN reliably. Today, the technology exists to ensure that you're not limited to a single vendor. You're not tied into a single type of network. So you can be truly agile. You can be truly flexible about how you run your businesses, your communications. So, that's today. What do we know about tomorrow? Well, let's base it on two facts. First of all, we know that the internet, we know that IP networking have driven the evolution of communications over the last 20 years. We know that. And we also know that voice is now able to use the same technologies going forward. There are two facts we know. So I'm going to look at two areas. I'm going to look at the area of IP networking. IP6, we all know. Has anybody rolled out IP6 so far in their organizations? No. Does anyone have any plans in the next 5 years to roll out IP6? Just a few hands showing up. Yeah. The world has run out of IP4 addresses. Doesn't mean we have to leap immediately, and we can take a fairly conservative approach to this, but it will impact voice going forward. That's actually good news for voice, because you don't have this limitation of addresses that you have anymore. So things like session border controllers that you have for SIP with the NATing problem is gone. There's going to be lots of work inside virtualization. We're quite excited about the fact that going forward, you can take services and isolate them and have different levels of permissions for them. That's going to be key for the internet if you're exposing services across them. But in the form of the internet, we know that HTML5, the specification for delivering websites, is here. There's an extension to that called WebSockets that allows you to push network services to it. This is huge because it means that every browser on the internet becomes a potential handset. It means that you can deliver voice services to the browser. If you have a website, your users are already interacting with your business on an application level. Maybe you've introduced instant messaging so they can always use text. But right now, if you want to do voice, they have to phone a number. That will go with HTML5. We also know about the smart device. Here's some stats for you. By 2014, there will be more smart devices connected to the internet than there will be PCs, which is truly astronomical rise. Each of those smartphones are connected to the internet. They have speakers, they have microphones, they have video cameras. People are already using these systems every single day for delivering, for socializing. They talk, but they don't use these for phone calls. They're using things like Facebook, Twitter. Shouldn't we as businesses be communicating with our customers in the same way? If you take it, our internet, our phone systems are connected to the internet, so why can't we communicate with our customers in the same way, across the same mediums? If we go back to the mobile phone, if so much communication is occurring, is it conceivable that the mobile phones may not have numbers going forward? Why would we phone a great big 16-digit number when we can just click on the contact and find the users and make calls? I have the same scenario at home. I have a broadband connection. I never make phone calls on my home phone. It's purely there to support my broadband. We're also quite excited about the fact that you can, going forward, find people on the internet without, and make a phone call, you can communicate to them without dialing a great big long number in. If your phone system is connected to the internet, why can't you do the same? That restriction on having a great big long number for people to memorize, the yellow pages, surely has got to be superseded by systems that allow you to find users across the internet quickly. And you need providers who are able to plug in that technology, those SIP trunks that are connected to your PBX. That's where Britannic's putting a lot of focus and effort. So moving forward, we see telephony, we see video, text, applications as mediums that are coming into your businesses. But at the moment they come in on a certain number. They come in on your ISDN lines or your SIP trunks. Why can't you take voice calls in on Google+? Why can't you take voice calls in on Facebook? You should be able to. So we see there's a separation of the technology and the medium going forward. We think there's going to be, well, in fact we know, that you should be able to take your phone calls across these different mediums. But you still want to manage your businesses in the same way. You still want to know the quality of your customer experience. You still want to see whether or not you're delivering good customer value, irrespective of how they're coming into your business, your customers. So reporting, call recording, should all be there. One set of systems. The technology that the customer uses to talk to you should not dictate what you can and can't report upon. At the moment, if you want to plug in Facebook or Twitter, you have to have a system that does that. It should be transparent. So, it's been a fairly rapid introduction about where we are, but if I look and conclude, we've seen a lot of changes to our infrastructure over the 20 years. Fantastic changes. We can now be truly agile. We can move around as much as we like. But let's move the discussion on a little bit. Let's see how can we leverage this technology? How can we benefit our customers and ourselves? The future, we think, is definitely built upon the last 20 years of maturing innovation. So we do not believe you need to throw your systems out to embrace the new. Take the best of both. Take the best of your IT and your telecoms world. And the technology exists today to allow you to do this. Talk to us, talk to Britannic on the stand, and we can help and give guidance on that. So it's about value, it's about adopting and using the technology to drive our businesses forward. We've been doing this for, in our over 20 years, Britannic have been doing this. We are truly in the position to be able to help you develop your strategy for your telecoms, develop and use the technology that you have already. And the services that we run from our cloud, if you call it a cloud, NetX, NetConnect, NetManager, they're built today with this end goal in place. So with that, I will say thank you for your time.